welcome back to Vic Ferrari's Garage. We are doing a skid plate. The skid plate that was on the Dune buggy was just covering the engine pan, and it wasn't big enough to get out to both sides of the frame rails, so we went off-roading and we hit not only the frame rails but the transmission quite a few times, and the skid plate got bent slightly, so gonna put a new one on. I'll show you what we're doing. I hit here on my tranny. I hit here on my tranny. I hit here on my tranny. I hit this bolt head really hard and bent my pan. I've got engine press. You can actually see all the scratches. And then I hit here, here. I hit really good in here. Took a huge bash to my frame, and that's a pretty good dent. Just missed the pan. And then I took a huge hit here on my frame. This is the old skid plate. It is an 1/8 inch thick aluminum, and you can see here and here where it wasn't thin or thick enough, and it was hitting the bottom and actually bending on the engine. So I'm going to put some spacers between the frame and the pan to bring it down a little more so it doesn't hit my engine. I'm going to widen it so that it covers my frame rails, and lengthen it so it covers my transmission, and I'm going to put a slight ramp on it so that I don't get hung up on my engine horns as I'm coming up onto a bump. You can see right there the engine horns are flat, and you slide up and you catch those on bumps and rocks. So the pan is the skid plate is going to come up and actually turn, and it's going to come up and bolt to the floor. So that way anything sliding down will slide down the skid plate and keep on going. So on the back of the buggy we've got the original mounts for the skid plate. Start here at the ball hitch. This is my cheap GoPro camera for I catch shots of my suspension. I need to update that. I wanted to just temporarily try it out, and I thought it was cool, so now I'm going to make it permanent. But I've got mounts already here for the engine area, and then I just welded on 4 new mounts here, 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 and here for the transmission area. I'm also going to drill these into the skid plate and start using these bolt holes. So I'm also going to bolt on up here and in the floor, so that this becomes a full skid plate from the front of the car all the way to the back. So the next step is I used my original skid plate to drill the holes for the locations of the tabs in my new skid plate. However, for the transmission and for this part here, they're going to be blind holes. And once you have the skid plate on there, you could either measure and do your best at hitting that hole exactly, which never works out. You end up drilling slightly off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 4 bolts. I'm going to oh man, I messed up. Well, I'll leave it on film. This sucks. I was supposed to weld a nut on top of these before I put them in. I had to weld these brackets on, and when I did, I should have welded the nut on them first, but I forgot. And so I had to get in here. It was a nightmare, and I had to get my MIG up through here and weld these nuts on. But the way I did it was I put the bolt through, tightened the head, the nut down on it, and then it held it in place while I welded it, And just to make sure that after I pulled the bolt out there was no welding slag or anything in it, I did this. I cut a small groove with my grinder into the bolt so that it would clean the threads out as I went back through. And then I put a point on my bolt with the sander disc on my grinder, and I installed them this way. These won't be the bolts I use, but these are to mark my aluminum. So now I'm going to install my aluminum using the tabs for my original skid plate, because I was able to use that skid plate to get these holes drilled in it. So I'll install it. I'll put a jack under here and I'll get it in line with all this. Once it's totally tight and in place, I'll smack the aluminum with a hammer on the end of each of these, and it'll make its own mark, and then I can take it back down and I'll know exactly where I need to drill, and it will even give me a drill tap hole to start. Okay, I just got done mounting this up and hitting those bolts with the tip sharpened, and this is what it does for you. It knocks a nice good dent for you to drill into. So we're going to drill those out real quick and we'll be ready to mount. While I'm at it, I'm going to drill those fronts. So you'll notice that I've got some bends in this aluminum, and that stuff's not easy to bend at all. But let me show you the way I did it. I don't have high-end tools, I don't have metal brakes, I don't have any of that stuff. That's why I like my YouTube channel, because I try to show people how they can do stuff without having all that high-end stuff. So I put the metal straight up and down right in between this white piece and my ramp, and I put it down to the level I needed it, and then I just stepped up on the bed, leaned over on it and bent it over, and it acted just like a metal brake. And then I moved it up, turned it around, and put the other piece into where I needed it, leaned on it, bent it over, and stood on it and bent it the rest of the way. So you can use things that are just in your yard to create the tools you need. Alright, here's the new finished skid plate. It's got extra bolts up the transmission. I rounded off the edges to wrap around my bar. The old plate didn't even cover my bar, it left it totally exposed. And the new plate goes wide here. And the big thing is the way it covers the horns on there, and then bolts to the bottom. So now we're full skid plate. The only thing exposed is my trailing arm. Here's the front of the buggy. Got it fully skid plated, 100% underneath, all the way out the back. Only thing exposed now is trailing arms, which can't really help that, but the tires and the suspension should keep everything away from that anyway. So, alright, hit that like, hit subscribe. Thanks for coming. Have a great day. Vic Ferrari.